it is time to start.
Okay.
I am in the tradition of Monday evening lectures. I don't really do an introduction other than to say this is Luca Bosani. He's fantastic and really interesting artist, and of course he's here. I will just repeat that thing that I said earlier, and that is that I came upon, like with some artists, they're people who I've known for a long time. Other people, it's someone that's recommended them to me. I mean, Luca, I happened upon your work, and was instantly excited and confused in equal measure, and I think that's a really good thing to experience when looking at art. A very diverse practice encompassing sculptural, the performative, the photographic, but I'm not going to say more than that because otherwise I'm stealing Luca's 30 minutes. Just, I think we can do some smiley faces though. Can our audience do smiley faces in lieu of a clap? Welcome to the Monday Evening Lecture Series. Congratulations to us for having you. It's a delight to have you here today. And without any further ado, Luca Bosani, what I'll do is as soon as you want me to, I will share the document and it'll go online and you'll see it big. And then if you say to me when you want the next slide, I'll just press next slide if that's okay.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, thank you everyone for welcoming me. Thank you, Alex, for the presentation and for inviting me. It's a pleasure. In a new format, in a new setting, just when a new lockdown has been announced. So very delicate moment, but very happy to be here and that we can be together somehow in this new way of being together. I'm here in London at the moment in my office, and I work between London and Pregnana Milanese, which is a small town in Lombardy, and I have an office also there. And yeah, I guess we can start with the first slide. We have here color and symbol, which you will see appearing more often later on. And the presentation starts with some photographic evidence. So we can go to the second one. This is more of an opening of a page, like a sort of a cover. And I start with case 002, I Masnadieri Volanti, which is an Italian name because where this event happened was in Italy, and the title I've been given was in Italian. The word Masnadieri is almost untranslatable. It's sort of like thieves or some evil character. It's like, yeah, it has some darkness into it. And volanti means flying. But it's a very old word. So that's also why it's not really translatable. But I like this fact about this name, which even if you are Italian, you cannot really understand what it means. And in this case, why keep going from one to the other?
Anybody who's touching the slides, please stop. Only Alex is moving slides, please. Apologies about this. Yeah.
Okay. This one is a good image. So yeah, we can go to the second one because they all come as a set and they are evidences of something that happened. So this happened in July, and later on I have an official document of this case. As I was saying before, I operate between UK and Italy, and this strange event happened in Italy in July. And all that I found at the beginning were these photographic evidences, where two figures looks like they're flying, but they might have been also absorbed by a force upwards. It's not really clear what happened, and we see the garments and we see the setting. Let's go to the next one. Next slide. Thank you, Alex. This is another close-up. Let's go to the one after. I want to give you the whole picture So these are all the images. And this is the case file. You can see there's a full moon in the background, and it's a very orange moon. So let's go on the case file after you have seen all the photographic evidences. That's where I started my research. The case file is this. I really hate when a lecturer reads something. So I'm gonna read something, but knowing the way maybe normally is read. This is the official document that describes the case, this strange event. I signed it. I am the person that wrote the document. And I'm trying to kind of make a sense about what happened. It's okay. I can.
Someone appears to be touching the slides. Can all participants and moderators not touch anything to do with the slides? You should not be anywhere near the sharing the button. I should only be me that's touching the slides, please. Apologies, Luca.
No worries. I have the document here. I can read it from my screen. And then if it's appearing also better. Okay, here we see the symbol and the reappearing. And so you start to make a sense why the cover was in that way. This was the document ENGFE68 PT2/529 on the 10th July 2020. What happened is a statement of facts. At dusk of the 5th July 2020, in a rural area of the Lombard countryside, two not clearly identifiable figures lifted up from the ground and disappeared into the darkness. These are the two figures that were shown in the first image. A beam of light, which is also visible from the photograph, that initially surrounded them, took them away. Yet, a few moments earlier, they were well anchored to the ground, constrained by the Hertz pull. The photographic documentation of what happened is partial and fragmentary. So all the photographs that you have seen are all the photographs available to continue, that were available for me to continue the research. It was a very difficult beginning. It is not clear how these figures got to this place, nor how they vanished. If you want, Alex, if you want to return to the images at the beginning, like the one that one, perfect. So while I read the case, we can keep this image if possible. Great. Here we have some a part of the document which has been erased because I cannot share with you this detail. But then I myself, after visiting the place where the photographs were taken, remain rather confused about the course of the events. I then decided to continue the investigation, and by looking in the details of the photographs and in the objects that these figures were wearing, I was trying to understand what would be connected, what was the event that connected these figures with these objects. So that evening, the moon was full, a shining half sphere, flattened by the distance from which we look at. Yellow with orange reflection attached to the sky. Every 28 days, a different full moon shows itself to us. The full moon of July, we can show the photograph with the moon in the background. Alex, is it possible? That one, perfect. The full moon in July is also called back moon by Native Americans and southern moon by the ancient Anglo-Saxons. This is according to my research, what I've been discovering. Observing closely the photographs, these figures are wearing dresses and shoes that appear to be inspired by organic forms, the growth structures of the stag's antler, and the propagation of thunders from the sky to the Earth's surface. In July, male deers produce large amount of somatropin. This hormone stimulates the growth of the antlers, which are initially richly vascularized and covered with soft fluff. The antlers of the buck, which are covered with velvet until the shedding season, here. And this, especially this description, if we go to the golden shoes,
Just coming.
Yeah, this image is from a physical evidence because this was found afterwards. So which we found the objects. So these are the objects I'm talking about. This one is the one with the stag's antlers and related to testosterone and somatropin. These two hormones that regulate the growth of the antlers. Then if we go to the second physical evidence, just go one forward. Alex, please. Thank you very much. Also in July, the frequency of appearance of lightnings and thunders increased greatly compared to the other months of the year. This increase is due to the fact that in summer, the sea and the soil are warmer. So what happens is that there are a lot of thunders in July. And it looks like there is a strong connection with the shape of thunders and those garments. So there's this confluency of what happens naturally and logically in July and what these figures were wearing. To conclude the case, I was trying to understand a bit more about the figures and the position. The T-shaped of the flying figures is reminiscent of scarecrows, and the hat as the hat and the shirt they're wearing. Attached to the shirt, there are long ribbons as wings. But from the images available, I don't think was possible to fly with those rudimentary extensions. The outfit of the subjects is completed by sporty socks and shorts. The blue kit could belong to the Italian national football team or to the provincial team GS Pregnanese, while regarding the black kit, I'm pretty sure it belongs to an official uniform of AC Milan, the famous Italian team from Milan. My conclusions, which has been partially covered by privacy, I can say that case 0032, after finding the physical evidence, can be described as an apparition or an abduction. Okay, so this is the first case I wanted to talk to you about. I've tried to go quite in the detail. In fact, I took about 15 minutes, but I wanted to do so because it's a completed case to which I was able to get a conclusion somehow. It's still a partial conclusion, but I was able to reach a place which satisfied me in terms of research and analysis. So how I structured the presentation is that this one is the first work and is completed. The second work, and we can skip to the next phase. Yeah, let's go on the text for a second because it comes perfectly. So what happened is that I've been teaching in the last 3 years in different ways. At Kensington and Chelsea College, at Morley College. I started a role at City of Westminster College in September. In actually it was late August 2020, just after this case. And what was happening is that this new job I had at the City of Westminster College was impeding me to continue on my research and my investigations. In particular, I was working on case 0033 and 0034. I also had to go in Italy for a week for 0035. So basically, I had 3 cases which I was dealing with, and it was impossible for me to continue my teaching, and I had to abandon my teaching career. Also, this role, I was managing the course. I was managing the level 3 in design and fine art there, but it wasn't possible for me. I had too many things to, and I decided to give priority to my researches and investigation. And this is the document that explains what happened and what happened with my resignation. It was exactly 2nd October. And let's go. So we go on the case, the next page. Great. Case 0034, because case 0033 in the end has been archived for not enough physical evidence present. So I had to archive that case, and I focused all my intention and energy on case 0034 and 35. Case 0034 happened to also be my upcoming solo exhibition and performance at San May Gallery, London. So this case would have been presented there. But because of the lockdown now, everything is shut. I had my performance that was sold out and everything was ready. But the case 0033 is not going to be publicly displayed yet. But here you can see some images, which you are the first person to see it. Some have been online, but some that are going to come has not been online. So you have a complete preview of that. So in this case, in this photograph, we can see what I call UPO. A UPO is an unidentified performing object. There were also UPOs in the previous case, but I was still at the beginning of these discoveries, so I was not able to identify and give them a name. But then when they started to appear more and more as objects, that's what I call them, and that's what they became. They became UPOs. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, in this case, we can see some wearable UPOs. And this case is extremely layered, and I could talk about it forever. But there's something I want to focus, which will come later. But basically, it looks like this wearable UPOs, which I happen to have one here. So they look like to be inspired by the horns of a bull. It's a specific bull that lives in the south of France, which have the horns, which have this kind of angle. And it looks like that the red is referring to blood, and the corrida, which is a Spanish ritual. I would call it ritual, really, where you might know where they kill a bull, and it's a strong implication with identity, gender, history, culture, which I cannot go into a moment. Definitely, these UPOs are talking about that too. Let's move to the second one. Here we have the UPOs in themselves, with a stamp which approves what they are. And it seems they have been created starting from 70s platform booths. We all know that in the 70s, identity and gender were first publicly and largely discussed and started to be, there was David Bowie, for instance, or Mark Bolan, which they are. I mean, Mark Bolan actually is considered the inventor of Glock, and there's something to do in this type of UPOs, which the previous one didn't have. And then there are surely some reference to the punk at the same time, because there are these very large studs and the shape they have, and it's quite unusual for a shoe. It could be mistaken for a sculpture, in fact. let's go to the second. The second. I'm always saying the second, but it's the 10th or the 15th. The 14th, I've seen the number. So here we are. Here we have what is a wearable unit in form of a hat, as you have seen before, and here is presented on a wall. So again, there's something going on in terms of tension of what this thing really is. That's why it's an unidentified performing object. Next one. Slide number 15. We have a UPO nobody has seen before today. Also, this one looks like having some similar features like the 70s platform boots and the studs like the previous one, but the shape of, I would call them horns, are completely different. In fact, they look like they are inspired by the black buck. It's an Indian antelope, and the males of this antelope, they fight so strongly and so heavily with this retorted horns, which is unbelievable to see. And it looks like it's something to do with this animal. Next one. Here we have the other part, which is connected. Again, I didn't say anything about the head, which looks like to be inspired by Texan heads and Western spaghetti Western movies. Spaghetti Western movies were a type of movies very famous in Italy in the 80s, where they were sort of doing the Western versions of the American Westerns, where you have gun duels and fighting. But they were filmed like in North Africa or in the desert of Spain because they were cheaper, and they were made in a much cheaper way and much faster, and they were doing loads and loads of movies. And the duels between man versus man, male versus male, are the key, are the juice of those movies. So here we can see these hats sort of recurring in a very strange shape. Next slide. Instead, here there is a collection. So all these elements, I'm very aware of the time, so I'm trying to speed it up. I'm like all these elements is fine.
Time, it's all good. You take the time it takes. It's fine.
Okay. So these other elements, they are all under the case 0034, which is called the gargantuan shoe, and we're gonna arrive to the gargantuan shoe. But as I said, there are so many layers, and there's no way I'm gonna be able to talk about all of this now. But I'm gonna talk about something. As part of the exhibition, there are also those objects. What are those objects? Well, they look like the same thing of before, but they're not, because the size of these is 4 times smaller, 5 times smaller. They fit on a hand. They are between the smallest is 10 centimeters and between 10 and 18 centimeters, more or less, but most of them, they're around 15 centimeters in length. They are 15, 16 centimeters in height, some 10. Anyway, they have this size, and I mean, I've discovered them, and I wasn't really sure what they were, but then I thought, well, this might be UPOs as well, but these are mini UPOs. There's like another sort of type of UPOs. And there's the shapes of these UPOs. For who is familiar with my practice, you would recognize that they actually look like exact copy of some previous wearable sculptures that featured in my performances, like in Too Early to Love You, Too Late to Kiss You at Tate Britain. There were those one of those. The one in white was one of them. Or we can see the sculptural piece, other mini UFO in black that featured in Strip, a performance that was presented always in 2019 at Louis Chamart's house. So there's this sort of like connection with this mini UPOs that relate with my performances and that have been discovered afterward, and they feel like they're like almost like a memory of the performance, or better, they are extending the life of the performance beyond the performance through the presence. And so this collection of UPOs would have been presented in the My Solo exhibition and performance at some gallery that would have been opening in 2 days, together with a performance. All this exhibition revolves around UPOs, but also around a gargantua, which we don't have any image of it, but we can talk about it. Let's go the next one. Here we have just a photograph to understand the size of the mini UPOs. Next one. Another one. This one is titled Mini UPO C, because of, well, I don't have to tell you why. Next one. This one instead, Mini UPO Cheetah. Next one. Here we are. Here we are. Now we can talk about the gargantuan shoe, which, well, this is the main reason why C0034 was opened. And then all this collection of UPOs came together as a part of the research. So let me read that. I'm going to read it from here. It's a bit small. And we go, perfect. On the morning of 11 October 2020, while I was working in my office, exactly here, on the case 0033, no apparent success, I've been interrupted by an unusual call. Forgive my Italian accent, I hope you understand. A young woman talking in English with a strong Italian accent, also she had a strong Italian accent, was abruptly trying to explain me that an enormous shoe with a crooked tip appeared in her workplace. I tried to calm her down, ask her where she got my number, and gently told her that if she preferred, she could continue to describe me what happened in Italiano. She told me, speaking in her mother tongue, luckily, that earlier that week, she contacted the London Met Police and a number of private investigators illustrating what happened in her workplace, San Megadli. No one of the contacted agents believed her words, rapidly redirecting her towards a good doctor or psychiatrist, which there are plenty in London. Worried and bewildered, she began surfing the internet looking for an answer to asking questions. Typing on her browser Reality Investigator and scrolling among many pages, she somehow found my number. I told her that she might have reached the right person, and I was ready to hear the story in the detail. In her own words, now more calmly and precisely, she told me that on the morning on 7 October 2020, when she opened the door of Sunmay Gallery to begin her shift, she found a gargantuan black shoe in the exhibition space. She couldn't understand how a big object entered the gallery and why it was there. She immediately called the director to advise her about what she had just acknowledged. And while on the call, the strange object started propagating music in the whole room. Since then, the shoe kept behaving this way till the present moment. And I really think it's still behaving this way in gallery at the moment, because That was my goal, was to go on the 7th and understand what's happening. So we're gonna go to that. But I believe now I'm stuck there, and I don't know till for how long. Being familiar with UPOs, identify the performing objects. My first thought was that the object described by the young woman could be one of them. What didn't convince me was the size of it. No one ever encountered such a large specimen. In addition to that, UPOs are generally mute and still, with exception of UPO 01 and UPO 02. Also here, for the people who knows me, UPO 01 and UPO 02 performed their own destruction, burning in a fire. This was 2017 spring. But apart from those crazy ones, normally the UPOs are still and they're just quiet, let's say. While this one regularly emits pleasant sounds, very pleasant sounds. Appears to me that this shoe is trying to communicate with us, and is trying to tell us something. Very thrilled by the opportunity of confirming or denying the existence of the world's largest and first sonic UPO, I decided to visit Samei, accompanied by a special member of my team. Now we arrive to the action plan, aka performance. On the 7/11/2020, 1 month after the sudden appearance of the large musical object at Sanmei Gallery, I'm planning to visit the location with CJ. CJ is a talented musician. Through their music, I intend to begin a conversation with the gargantuan shoe. Speaking its language, musical, sonic, my intention is to communicate with it, understanding why and how it reached us, hoping that this would not result in an uncontrollable altercation. Furthermore, after collecting various mini UPOs that I've shown you before, each size between 10 and 17 centimeters in length, 4 to 10 in width, and 6 to 11 in height, my intention is to gather them all in the space of the new apparition. I am confident that the proximity with certified UPOs, like all the ones I've shown you before, including this one, certified before, yeah, is there. I just lost the sign. Intention is to gather them all in the space of the new operation. I'm confident in the proximity with certified UPOs, like the ones I've showed, would allow me to identify the similarities between things, remember the bracket, and it would ultimately lead me to understand and confirm the nature of this enormous physical and musical manifestation. Okay, this is case 0034, which is almost a completed case, but it's not really completed. Also, because the exhibition now has been postponed to 2021, and cannot really go on location on the 7th. So I guess this massive shoe is going to be stuck in the gallery for I don't know how long. And well, also the music is going to still come out, but I don't know who's going to be able to appreciate it now. And now we go to the last project. And this one, and this was a bit, my idea is to kind of show you cases, projects, which they are at different stages. So the first one was completed. The second one was about to be presented and completed. The third one is instead not yet ready to, is still in process, is not finished. In fact, here we have some notes, but I can tell you about it. This one is located in London. The case 0035, is not located in London. It's located in Italy, in a place called Revine Lago in Veneto, which is northeast, nearby Lombardy, not too far from Venice. And the original name of the case is Caso 0035, il cocktail dorato, but this one can be translated because it's golden cocktail, as you can read there. What happened? Well, this is a whole other story, but I'll make it very short. Also because I don't have all the elements to complete the case. So I've been selected among 12 people to go for a residency by Brodo, which operates in relation with three foundations in Italy, which, if you are curious, you go on my CV and you find the names about. And there I encountered a very strange object, again, but in a different way this time. A fisherman was fishing on the lake, because in the lake, there are two lakes in Revine Lago. Lake of Lake is called like that. You can check on the map. Lake of Lake and Lake of Santa Maria. So this is perfect. We have the map. There was a fisherman. There's plenty of fishermen fishing there. They fishing all sort of fishes, like enormous ones, because in lakes there are very big fish. My father is a fisherman, so I know. I also won a competition of fishing at some point, even though I'm not totally agree. I don't totally agree with it. Let's go back to the point. So this guy fished something, and it was like so hard to take it out, so heavy, but it wasn't a fish. To his disappointment, it was an object that looked like a sculpture, and that looked like a shoe, which had some sort of growth. It looked like corals. Like if it's been under the water for so long that something has grown. But I haven't seen the object in person, because the fisherman just gave it straight away to the police of the, we call it commissariato, to the police of the place. But I've seen photographs, which I do have. I haven't attached to the presentation, because I want to just sort of talk about it a bit. Is find them up, and then plenty of other things happen. And well, it looks like that in a discotheque, in a club, which used to be called Riva d'Oro in the 70s, 80s, on the 1976, in the spring of 1976, to be precise, three young boys disappeared one night. We don't really know what happened, but I managed to find out that when this shoe that looked like a shoe, looked like a 70s shoe, modified by the time, came out from the lake, I met this woman that actually now she was in her 60s, Indian looking, that when she heard about this finding, she was really sort of worried, because she met on that evening in the 1976, these three guys disappeared. Well, we can go on the text of the case, which is the last images. As you can see, it's very long. We can go also to the next one. Last one, yeah. So it's very long. I'm not gonna bother you with reading, because it's also in Italian, so it's gonna be a mess. I have to translate it. But the core of it is what I said now, and what I'm thinking, because I've been in location, and after out of these 12 participants, 3 projects have been selected to be developed after the residency, and it happened that my project was selected because everyone was kind of like confused, and they wanted to understand what happened. So they wanted to solve this case, and I got funding to develop this, but this is going to be in 2021 at Fondazione Fabbri, which is one of the foundations involved, but the others go on my CV. And I think I can just say this, not much more. I think that these three figures, these three young boys, are still alive first. I think they are somewhere hidden. I believe one might have been under the lake, so he might turn into a mermaid or something like that. Not too sure, but I think he's living down there. And the other two, I'm not too sure, but I think one might be in the prehistoric forest, which is nearby the lake, and the third one, I'm not really sure. But yeah, I'm very fascinated by the dance of, how is it called in English? Let me translate. It's a bird. It's called sbasso in Italian. Let me just give it to you because it's lovely. Sbasso in English. Called grebe. Well, it's a beautiful bird. I've been so fascinated by the dance, the love dance of this bird when I was there. So I believe that there might be something with this third character associated with this bird, but it's just an hypothesis which would sound completely out of place. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to investigate and to understand what happened in these 40 years. And I really think they're still alive. So I would like to find these three boys and to see what they became after all this time. Yeah, that's it.
Luca, thank you. How mysterious. And of course, what you do there is you give me a complete conundrum now, because I don't know how to address this. Am I addressing the performance? Am I addressing the mystery? Am I addressing the subject of it? I'm going to have a go at doing some questions, because I don't know how you might answer them, because I don't know whether you're in character still or not. I'm going to call it slippery, and it's something that interests me, that the work seems to slip between things. It's a performance, but it's also a sculpture, but it's also a painting, but it's also a story, but it's also an investigation, but it's also, and the status seems strangely important in the work. Perhaps precisely because you're pulling the rug from under the audience's feet. We're never quite sure what the status is of what we're looking at. Is that sense of unrest or disquiet in the audience something that you think is important for the work?
That's a good question. I'm really interested in the spaces in between things. I think that's where it lies something. Because if we stay just in what we know, if we stay in what we know, like as sculpture, as performance, as a thing, as ourselves, ultimately as ourselves, we just fall into a box. So that's what I'm trying not to fall into a box.
I think you're dancing around the boxes beautifully. I'm going to ask about then something about, you mentioned gender in the work. You mentioned Bowie, you mentioned the 70s platforms. One of the odd things about the 70s is that it's not all Bowie and Mark Bolan. It's often Sweet, or some Midlands band where a bunch of geezers have put some platform boots on, and this sort of odd kind of address to masculinity that happens in the 70s that seems to occur in your work as well, where it sort of it struts the masculine strut, and yet seems to sort of poke fun at it as well. What do you think is the role of masculinity in the work?
Well, I used to really directly work about masculinity. If you go back in time, 2014, I staged a football match between 10 heterosexual male footballers and ex-footballers, all dressed with women's clothes. There was a pink team and a yellow team, and they played one against the other, and my attempt was to try to understand somehow how much the form, the outside would influence the inside. So in that case, I used to do works which directly tackle the theme of masculinity. And I think now, I think I want to go beyond that. I'm not interested in that anymore. I mean, it's gonna be part of my work always, because I guess it's there in different forms. But I'm not really talking about the construct of masculinity in our head. I'm sort of trying to still talk about identity and very often male identity, but with another perspective. That's why there are a lot of animals and there are these forms which they sort of merge between the human and the animal and the story and the case and the situation. I mean, definitely is there. It's not disappeared, but I'm not any more interested in poking into that.
Well, let me push a bit further.
About.
You might be poking then at the male figure of the artist in these works. There's something about sort of the positioning of where the artist might be in them that I think is really intriguing and humorous, but also quite dark. Yeah, I'm quite intrigued in this. Is it for you, on a certain level, a reinvention of the artist as a mystic guru, or is something else at play?
I think very often, or maybe my research can be seen as a mock. I'm sort of mocking the hyper masculine figure of the artist. I want to disappear in the work. I want to be like another performer, or I want the other performer to take my role. I want to forget who I am while I do something, and so this is really important for me. I don't want to do these solo performances where Mr. Luca Bosani comes in and does the magic. No, I'm not interested into that. I'm much more interested into a situation. I'm interested in the magic, but not in just me, because I will not be able to, I believe in plurality of the individual. I believe in plurality of the presentation, or the presentation of the work. This is something I tackled when I was in my MA performance. I was exhausted. I didn't want to perform anymore alone. I didn't want to perform anymore, really. As Zhang said at some point, performing is just exhausting. So I agree. But when you do it alone, it's even more. But when something starts to, like, you have a group, and then you have a setting, and then you go on location, and then you get data, and that's where becomes the research and the investigation. It becomes from there. Is when you start to detach from this idea of everything comes from within. Nothing comes from within, and almost, I think, very little. I think it comes from going there. So yeah, it relates with. I mean, I know I went a bit farther, but I'm talking about the same thing. Of this sort of figure of the artist. Like, I don't believe that the artist has everything in there, and that's what I wanted to say.
I agree completely with that analysis. I think that's really a wonderful description. I also wanted to talk about magic. I did want to talk about the unknown. I wanted to talk about all sorts of things, but I'm not being allowed to, because we've got to let our audience ask lots of questions now, and there are hundreds of them. Lara, do you want to lead the questioners? Do you want to? Have you sorted them for me, or should I just pick them at random, Laura? What would you recommend?
Started to send them to you in a private message. We can probably just start at the top for the first one.
Carry on with that, Laura, and I will pick some questions. So, what? Michael,
Sorry, my sound went out.
what do you think about humour in your work? This is from Marnie O'Shea. How vital is humour to your work? Is the absurdity intended, and is it meant to be funny?
It's meant to be funny. I hope that the audience, or anyone, such a bad word, audience, I hate. I hope that anyone that comes in contact with my work, if not anyone, but if someone laughs, that's great. In a sense that the laugh is a manifestation of something. So I hope I can make someone laugh. Sure. And about absurdity, well, absurd. This is absurd. Talking about absurdity, because you know what, depends from each one of us what is absurd. You know, I think it's absurd that I made a claim for my motorbike that was damaged, and today, after one day, the police told me, the case is closed. We're sorry, we cannot help you. And I do have the parts of the car here, and it's a Land Rover. I mean, we can continue the research with that accident, but for me, it's absurd that they say that. Say, it's closed after one day. So I think what I mean is that absurd is relative. What we think is absurd for others is not absurd. So I'm interested in pushing the boundaries. I want to push things a bit farther or somewhere. I want to push. So maybe, I guess, I'm interested in to see where the absurd lies in me or in other people. Yeah, that's I think what I can say.
I mean, I think that notion of pushing is really interesting, because I was genuinely thinking, how will I address the presentation in terms of what will my position be in relation to your position? And that was really surprising that the presentation of the work can do that to the person asking a question. It genuinely seems like you're dislodging the expected position of the participant, the viewer, the creator. All those positions seem to be quite fluid. I'm not going to talk too much, because Sarah Lou Marie has answered a much more interesting question, and that is, she's asking, at what point does narrative or fiction come into the process? Is it do you start with the sculptural, and that leads to a series of narratives? Does the narrative come first, and a series of sculptures or performances come from that? Is there a standard way in which these things evolve, or do they all appear at once? How does that come together?
It feels like it's appropriate to answer as my teacher in performance is Nigel Rolfe. It was a very difficult time, I would say, there. But I remember this that he said. He said, location, 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 3 times. So I would tell you that's location, location, location. Where do you show the work? Where do you produce it? Where do you show it? How long, like all this? Is it online? Is it offline? This location, location, location. So that's where it comes. And then you develop the rest around it. I develop the rest around it.
There's a very interesting question in relation to this, and that's Ariel asks, do you think that the shoes are portals? And why are they in the shape of shoes, do you think? Could there be other objects like that that are also garments?
Definitely the shoes are portals. Yeah. I always believed, maybe it was the other way around. Consumerism made me believe that they were portals. I believe that. And as I'm saying this through football, I played football for many years, and I believe that the shoes I was wearing was giving something to my performance. But as well as when I was going to Foot Locker shoes, I would feel, you know. So I think it's like I've been thrown something by society, or by I sort of loved it, and I love the item as a repository of identity, and then now it's coming back, but is digested, and now is that. So it's definitely a portal for something else, and it's the exact for me at the moment is the exact object. Well, no, non-object. This is the name of a show I'm curating, which also has been played from ages with amazing artists like Rosie Gibbons, Tamu, and Victor Seward. I was creating this show called Non-Objects. So I really think a shoe is a non-object in the way I present it, or is an unidentified performing object. Surely is a portal. But already what's happened with a hat is completely different. Um, you know, because with a hat is a disguise or some sort of protection. A shoe instead, at least as I see things, the shoe is the item you wear the most. Feel the distraction very often. So you would change trousers, you would change the jacket, you would not change your shoes you change them much less often. I'm interested into that. It's like there's your smell, there's and to put it farther, I'm also interested in like can this thing have any value in the art market? Can something that I use in a performance be an art whatever object with value? I'm also interested in that. Where is the value? So a shoe, you say also you are an old shoe to a person when he's talking crap in Italian, you know. So I don't know. Yeah, I hope he answers somehow.
I mean, I was also thinking about the shoes when I was looking at the presentation, and one of the things that struck me was that it's the shoe is the thing at the bottom that touches the ground, the hat is the thing at the top that touches the sky. And these two, it seems really appropriate that it's these two objects that seem to take top stage in the work. It doesn't seem surprising to me that it's the top and the bottom.
Yeah, I like this. What was so strange wearing this last U pose is that I became like 250 tall or something. I don't know. So strange. And that's what I would have liked really to have in the performance, because then you have the people coming to see the work, which are their normal size, but you have that. So and that's really what I want. What I'm gonna go farther. The next I want to do extremely tall shoes. I don't even know how you can, but wear them, but you can somehow with a ladder. But this kind of thing, I'm really interested into that.
I'm then also interested, the minute you start talking about this, I'm really interested in the notion of gravity in the work. Because on the one hand, the shoe is pushing you up, but on the other hand, it's the thing holding you down. It weighs you down, it has weight. And then these strange tentacles that grow out of the objects that move up and down. It seems as there is a sort of the moon is pulling things one way and the earth is pulling it the other. There seems to be gravity at play and some sort of elemental forces that perhaps relate to your notion of magic, maybe.
Yeah, I love magic. I never did, but now I do, and I'm older. I'm 30 now. Not that, but still, I wasn't that fascinated when I was young of magic, even though I have some memories of some cartoons or something. But now I do really love magic. I think it's the key for for me as a person to navigate reality, I need magic. And if it doesn't find it, I need to create magic. And I guess the flying, or the living underwater, or the morphing into animals, or all sort of these things which they belong to mythology, and otherworldly sort of like experiences. Uh, you haven't said the thing of conspiracy, but I read there someone was asking about conspiracy.
Yeah, talk about conspiracy.
No, I mean I don't really want to go too much into that, but what I was interesting is somehow, I mean, it's sort of otherworldly as a thing, but what I like is how they're trying to demonstrate something that it might be completely like the flat earth movement, you know, those people. I mean, I don't believe that, but I'm interested in to see how the otherworldly, how this kind of magical part of it, how they justify. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that in a bit. There's a number of questions. I can't ignore them. There's loads of questions being asked about the materiality of the works. And I think the materiality is, again, quite slippery, because it was this really interesting moment when you showed the white hat with the green horns on a white background, and the object appears to be painted. But in a photograph, it reads like a painted image. And it's got this ability to sort of mutate, to physically change in front of your eyes when you're looking at it as a photographic reproduction. And so, yes, the simple question is, what are they made of? How are you making them? What are these objects? What is their materiality? Can you tell us?
Their nature is hybrid, as you see. There's usually a starting ground, like a Western hat, and then there's a mutation. And in the time, I've tried different ways of doing. Now I'm well, it depends which ones, but I treat the surface as a painting, 100%. The surface is a painting, and the creation, the building is a sculpture. So and then you can see from the reports, materials after analysis. There's some rubber. There's rubber because I'm interested in the flexibility of it. So what is really important is that they have to resist. So I'm concerned to the look by the look of it, but I'm very concerned about the ability of resisting a performance, right? Because that was a very hard sort of important part for those ones. I'm not sure in the future what the materiality will be, but in this case, this rubberized is not the finishing layer. The finishing layer is a painted layer. The one underneath is a rubberized, so it's bendable. This is why I really cared. That when you wear them, you don't break them.
There's something else that the rubber does, and that is, in its application, it reveals the handmaidenness of it, or the physicality of making it, and it's really in a way at odds with the on one hand they're magical and fantastical, but on the other hand they reveal their production. There's a sort of peculiar truth to materials, if you like, in them, which is an odd frame of reference to bring this book. But once again, it seems to be itself and not itself at the same time in a nice way.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think we're getting through them. Let me just see, make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, documentation. I guess there's another question about where is the work? Does the performance get filmed? Does it get photographed? Which is that a new work? Is that documentation? How does that sort of sit together with work?
This is a never-ending question in performance. and really because it is, and I know it is important. What I'm trying to do is that, for me, the strongest documentation of my work are the object. The documentation is the object, really. Then, in fact, if you see the first case, 0032, the photographs were the starting point of the investigation. What did remain? It remained the object. So for me, the object is the documentation. What I'm really trying is to stress that, is to try to stress the power of an object, of becoming not just an object, but a documentation of an event. Then it's true, you can go on my website, you find the field performances like the one at Tate Britain and many others. A film is a lie. A film is a lie, and a photograph is a bigger lie. So maybe, but at least is the thing. At least is the thing.
Yes.
So when a person sees it, it's the thing. When you see a photograph, what is that? When you see, you know, or a movie, if you see the performance of Tate Britain, I did in the video, and you were there live, there's no likeness. It was an hour of duration and long performance, and you see 1 minute 20. It's a lie, beautiful lie, but it's not telling the same thing.
And now suddenly I'm thinking about Beyonce and that song "Beautiful Liar." I'm expecting to go there tonight. Two other things I'm bringing to it. One is the reference of the sort of fairy tale that come to mind. There's something of the fairy tale in the works. I think partly about that sort of story about the elves and the shoemaker, and how these sort of fantastical creatures help the shoemaker. But also about how the figure of the shoemaker and the milliner that makes hats, the shoemaker that makes shoes, and there are these. They seem like these arcane jobs that are invested with a sort of magical skill that seems beyond the realms of the possible, certainly for most people who might be making things. And that seems to me really interesting, because somebody mentioned the relationship to fashion, and I understand that comment, but to me it seems like it's not quite fashion. It seems like it's to do with shoemakers and milliners, and that seems to place it just slightly somewhere else in a way, in a slightly more peculiar place maybe.
I did a course in millinery. I did study millinery. And my grandfather emigrated from south of Italy to north of Italy. Now he's dead. And he was a shoemaker. He was making shoes. But I mean, I was way too young to learn anything from him when he died, when he passed away. And but he had a beautiful laboratory. So I remember the laboratory, and I remember being fascinated by the objects and the tools and the machines. I'm surely very fascinated about that. In fact, in one of proposal I've put through, I don't know if you will go through, but I would have liked to. I mean, I would like anyway, but it's just expensive. I would like to take a class in making shoes with leather. It's just very expensive and time consuming. So it's a bit difficult. But if I get a grant for that, which might happen, I don't know. But that's what I'm thinking. So yes, it's really about that. Fashion. Oh, I mean, I love fashion in a way, but in the same time, not. Is another big lie in a different way. Yeah, we can expand.
When I'm in the studio, if I'm making something, to figure out whether I like it, I put it on my head. There's something about putting something on your head. I don't know whether I meant to make it a hat or not. And Instagram, for some reason, knows that I've never in my life wanted to make a shoe, but Instagram to think I do. It's trying to put me on courses for making shoes. I just there. I have a number of different
Very
things to go.
spicy.
Yeah, there's something happening. Perhaps also something happening today in our slide when they kept mysteriously moving. I don't know whether the unidentified object interrupted us tonight.
It's okay.
We go to our last three messages. Well, that's a nice one from Alina. Did you grow up listening to interesting stories and fairy tales? And are there any specific fairy tales, perhaps, that you keep in your mind?
No. No fairy tales. No oral fairy tales. I'm trying to remember. If there was something I struck me, and maybe I've seen or some, but not really. Not really. But for instance, I did like the new version of Pinocchio that came out recently. I think they were the special effects were brilliant. So might be a good fairy tale for adults because it's really beautiful how they made it.
And deeply sinister.
Deeply, yeah, it's very sinister, that version.
God, yeah. Beth is begging me to ask one last question. She needs to know the body in Lucas's work. How is the body constructed? I don't entirely know what you mean by that, Beth. Are you talking about the physical body of the outfit, or the sense of the body within the work? Maybe, but let's ask both questions. Sense of the body in the work. How do you construct the sense of the body within the work?
Sense of the body, but physical body, or
yes, physical body. Beth.
Physical body. Okay. Seduction is a fundamental. Seduction. So yeah, I think that Eros is the strongest force of all. We are here. We are all here because of that somehow. I mean, we are. So, or by chance. But yeah, so I guess I'm interested in the gaze. So, which is part of the body. So, like, who's looking to who? And I'm interested also in how it's like a sort of an attitude or our body carries something. So this is what I'm really interested in. It's like that's where a fashion interest comes. It's like how you carry something. So that in that sense, I'm interested in the body. Yeah. So these two things and how the clothes can affect how you are. You know, now I have this shirt. This shirt is slightly open, and then this one. You know, it gives me some sort of. If I take it off, it would be already giving me. You know what I'm saying? So Alex is wearing a big necklace. You know, it's like change slightly why you no you move, and then yeah, I'm interested in that in terms of the body.
Yes. And of course, the minute I think about that, I think about the body as simply another sculptural form. The minute I think about the movement in relation to the item or the object, I start thinking almost quite formally about sculpture in that particular moment. We're coming to 7 o'clock. We're going to have to draw this to a close. But look, that was fantastic. That was inspiring and mind-twisting in equal measure. It's such a shame that your show is not launching this week, so this was going to be our chance to announce it to everyone, and we were going to have hordes.
Yeah, would have been a very good occasion to see my work, and yeah, also the performance was sold out, so well, which is great. But that means it's going to happen in 2021, so you can have time now to book it before the others and get it.
If there's plenty of notice, I will tell all the students that the performance is happening, and I'm sure you will be inundated. Great to have you here today. Fantastic talk. Hounded by evil sprites, I feel, though, tonight, both in terms of getting you into the meeting and then the evil sprites that messed with our slides. Thank you, audience, for asking all your fabulous questions and for coping with the slight technical hitches. Luca, I look forward next time perhaps seeing you in person, maybe a drink in hand. Until then, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, Alex. Thank you, everyone, for asking questions and being here till the end.
Thank you, people. Thanks a lot. You're getting lots of love, Luca, lots of thank yous and big kisses and things. So, congratulations.